Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Meet the Musician series with the Crosse Symphony Orchestra. If you haven't seen my previous segment, my name is Josh Baker, and I play clarinet with the LSO. Our theme this month is nationalism and patriotism, and it just so happens that on our upcoming chamber music concert on November 21st at 7:30 p.m., we will be featuring works by two composers who have made names for themselves here in the United States in the 20th century, and I'll share why I believe that they are important figures in the history of our country. We're going to begin the evening on a lyrical note with George Walker's Lyric for Strings, written shortly after the end of World War II. Walker was the first black composer to win the Pulitzer Prize for composing for his work Lilacs for Voice and Orchestra. Shortly thereafter, the Washington, D.C. Mayor Marion Barry actually declared June 17th as George Walker Day. Now, composing only began as a second line of work for Walker. When he was not composing, he was training to be a concert pianist, practicing 4, 5, 6 hours a day. In addition to the Pulitzer, he actually won Guggenheim, Fulbright, and Rockefeller scholarships as well. Written when he was a student at the Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia, the work was written as an homage to his grandmother, and its style is very similar to that of another work, the famous Adagio for strings, which was written by actually Walker's Curtis Institute classmate, Samuel Barber. And I think the beauty of this work is in the calming, sultry lines that seem to ebb and flow in and out of orchestra-wide chordal iterations. The anguished climax in the middle of the work pulls the melodic high strings into some of the highest registers of their instruments, while the violas and cellos and double basses seem to jab chords in the lowest register of their instruments. After overcoming this section, the work ends poignantly and optimistically into silence. A black musician of many firsts, George Walker was one of the first to have such a massively successful career here in the United States. And while he did struggle to get there, I believe he has nevertheless helped to pave the way for many, many composers like him since then. The second composer on our program is Aaron Copland, and I'm honored to be performing his clarinet concerto alongside one of his most famous works, Appalachian Spring. And like George Walker, actually, Copland's life encompassed a great deal of the 20th century. He was born in 1900, lived to be 90 years old, so he lived through literally 90% of the 20th century. During his life, as you might guess, Copland's music spanned a great variety of different styles. In the beginning, he did a lot of experimenting in his composing, using things like the whole tone scales, similar to Debussy and Ravel, using octatonic scales, very ambiguous beginnings and endings to his work, and he actually wrote mostly for piano and some for voice. He also experimented with 12-tone music, a method that got more traction in composers like Schoenberg and Webern. Now, in the middle of his life, Copland turned to write a great deal of populist music, which was driven by his desire to reach a wider audience. He felt that things like the 12-tone method and things of that nature were a little bit alienating to some of his audiences. This populist music style was characterized by many things, but notably for Copland using very sparse and simplified sonorities and harmonies, longer and more drawn out melodies, and particularly drawing on numerous American folk tunes. Famous works of Copland like Rodeo and Billy the Kid would be examples. For example, in Rodeo, Copland uses songs like Bonaparte's Retreat, which is, I believe, better known as the Bonnie Bunch of Roses. In Billy the Kid, Copland uses, I believe, 6 different cowboy folk tunes, including Great Granddad, Get Along Little Doggies, The Old Grisham Trail, and Goodbye Old Paint. Now here in Appalachian Spring, Copland principally uses simple gifts, which actually isn't introduced in the work in a full, uninterrupted capacity until the end of the work, near the end of the work, by the clarinet. Secondly, Copland's Clarinet Concerto is an example of populist music, but with a great deal more jazz influence. Accordingly, the work was written for the jazz great Benny Goodman and has since become a staple in the repertoire of advancing clarinetists like myself. The open harmonies, folk songs, jazz influences, these are what have really made Aaron Copland a quintessentially American composer. Once again, I appreciate you spending some time with me today to learn a little bit more about our upcoming chamber music concert and how it relates to this month's theme. Both Copland and Walker found a great deal of success in their work in the 20th century here in America, and I'm, as a musician and a clarinetist and as a human being, frankly, I'm incredibly grateful for their contributions to our beautiful, beautiful art form. We hope you will join us on November 21st for our upcoming chamber music concert. And until then, take care.